Some people do not know. They just see me preaching around the world. They don't know how my destiny was revealed. It was revealed by the prophetic. My grandmother is a pastor, but she did not also know of the calling of God that was upon my life. My mother is a pastor. I am a third generational pastor in my family. But even her, she could not also, her eyes were closed. She did not know that I would become a prophet. But I remember as I was growing up, till the age of 9 years, I was a stammerer. I could not speak. I had a speech impediment. And one time when I was 9 years, I come from a family of 3 children. Myself, my sister Shifra, and my brother Shafiq. My mother, after a conference, invited, and she was ministering in the slums, and we were living there. I told you I grew up in the ghettos. She invited some servants of God that had come to preach to our house for dinner. And they came to our house, and me and my sister and my brother, we are close in age. I am the firstborn, but we are all close in age. We have grown up together. And so when the servants of God finished the dinner, I was 9 years of age. And remember, I was a stammering child with delayed speech. I had delayed speech, even to say, "Mom, thank God today I can preach and minister the gospel around the world. I am a walking and a living testimony." Are you listening to me? So when we finished dinner, when the servants of God finished dinner and they began to pray, one of them said, "There is a prophet in this house." And my mother said, "But my children are all very young." And they said, "There is a prophet and God will use her from a young age." And I was the least qualified because, of course, my brother and my sister did not have speech problem. But I was born with delayed speech. I could not speak. Even at 9 years, I had challenges, even constructing sentences. And so my mother called all the 3 of us out. And she just said, "Okay, let the men of God speak a word, because there is a prophetic word." And I did know that at that moment, my destiny would be revealed by a prophetic encounter, though I was a young child. So as they began to pray for me, Shifra and Shafiq, my sister and my brother, immediately the prophet located me and said, "This is the young child that God is going to raise as a voice to the nations." And the prophet began to prophesy. Where the grandmother did not go, where you as the mother have not gone, she will break the barriers. She will mentor kings and nations. They began to prophesy. And I was young, but I had received Jesus because I grew up in a Christian home. And though I was young to understand, that was the first encounter I had with Jesus. Because immediately I felt the power of God. I was slain by the power of God. It was my first time to have a spiritual encounter, yet I was a child. I thank God that it's not the age that breaks the yoke. It is the anointing that breaks the yoke. I thank God that David had the voice of God as a young man. My God, I thank God that Timothy had the voice of God as a young man. Jeremiah had the voice of God as a young man. And God located me as a young girl. And immediately I was slain by the power of God. And I remember as I came back to consciousness, and it was like hours later, for the very first time in my life, I was able to speak and call my mother Mom. I could speak, and because I was so much used to reading the scriptures, suddenly I was speaking and just declaring, mysteries. And it was something that was unbelievable all over our neighborhood in the slums. Look at your neighbor, tell them, what God cannot do does not exist.